So this will exactly come in this sequence. Speaking first, then writing, reading, and listening. But it has some special features that, give me 1 minute, please. But it has some special features. For example, যেটা basically IELTS বা other যে traditional tests যেগুলো আগে জানি আমরা এগুলোতে নাই, যেমন while you're doing speaking, you are also doing some activities related to reading and listening.
Okay.
So it's not solely speaking. Point number 1, there is no interaction between 2 people or among 3-4 people. You don't talk to anybody because it is a computer-based test, right? Totally computer-based test. So as you are not interacting with anyone, how is the speaking marked? And I also said that you are also tested for reading and listening and speaking. For example, you have to, the first question of speaking is called read aloud. You don't need to take all the information, but even if you forget this, fine. To basic idea, I'm just giving some examples. In this case, for this task, you have to read a passage too. So what happens as you are reading the passage fluently, you are securing score for speaking as well as for reading. Here, speaking টা হচ্ছে main modulator, মানে এটা speaking এর part, but as you are reading the passage, so depending on your style and reading, that you have to know the techniques and tricks কি যে আমি কিভাবে better করব. So but as you're doing it, you're securing score for speaking as well as for reading. Some partial score will be delivered to reading section, reading module. So this is how it is marked. There are some other questions. Repeat sentence is the next question in speaking. What happens here? You hear a sentence and immediately after 2-3 seconds you repeat the sentence. Partial marking is given. So as you are listening first and then speaking, so you are also getting score for speaking and listening.
Okay.
So this is how these are kind of assorted, the question types, and you are also getting partial score for other modules. That is the special feature of PTE. Another special feature, so let me write it down here, is that scores are interchanged, or you could also say exchanged from one module to another. But for speaking, আমরা বলতে পারি যে speaking doesn't take any score, it gives score. মানে from no other module gives any score to speaking. So speaking is the boss for itself. মানে speaking এর marks আমি speaking থেকে পাচ্ছি, I'm not getting from anywhere else. But these are interchangeable scores. একটা module থেকে একটা other গুলাতে একটু interchange হয়। আচ্ছা, the other special feature is that there are lots of partial scores in PT. So in most questions in PT, you don't have to answer fully. I mean, if you answer 100%, you get 100% score. But even if you cannot answer 100% or perfectly, you are getting score partially. Partial scoring is there. For example, read aloud. আমরা যখন প্যাসেজটা পড়ব, obviously no one can read it perfectly. Not everyone. Some people can read perfectly, others may not. So এটা কি হবে? So as long as you're reading whatever you are reading, you are getting scored based on that. Even for repeat sentence, hardly anyone can repeat every single word for all the sentences. So, but as long as you're repeating correct words, no matter how many words you're repeating, you are getting partial score for that as well.
I mean, একটা সেন্টেন্সে যদি 5 থেকে 6টা ওয়ার্ড থাকে, যদি আমি 3 থেকে 4টা বলতে পারি, then I will get partial, right?
I'm still getting partial. Yes. Yeah. যেমন 5-6টা হলে ইজি, 10টা 12টা থাকলে ধরেন যে আপনি যে কোটাই বলবেন, even if you say 3, 5, 4, 6, you are getting scores. যেগুলো ম্যাচ করবে আর কি. For writing, there are similar stuff. I'm not going to talk about all the questions of all the modules, এগুলো আপনারা confused হয়ে যাবেন. But similarly, writing থেকে আমরা writing plus reading effect. Just remember that. And from reading, we get reading score plus writing. And listening is the most versatile section. Why? Because it gives score for listening, writing, and also reading. So technically, listening has a weight. It's quite important as a module. Here you get partial scores for two modules, two other modules. And you will know one by one. We will go by each section. Like today, we will focus on speaking, only speaking, because there is a lot of work to do. Another thing is that I was talking about scores are interchanged, lots of partial scores are there, and you can also prioritize specific questions. What does it mean? It means that in every section, there are some questions that have more weight than some other questions as far as scoring is concerned, right?
Okay.
For example, in speaking, there are 5 questions. And I haven't mentioned all of them, but I've mentioned 2: acknowledge, read aloud, acknowledge, repeat sentence. These are very important. Then there is describe image, retell lecture, and answer short questions. So এখন বোঝার দরকার নাই, but if we talk about the importance, read aloud becomes the most important question in terms of performance, because this is the most challenging now question now. Why? Because there are 6 to 7 passages, one at a time, that you have to read. Wait, and here genuine reading and pronunciation ability is required. ঠিক আছে? But marking wise, this is important, this one is also important, and these two are also very, very important. So in speaking, these 4 questions are quite important, almost equally important, but you can say that maybe a little up and down, but I'm not going to talk about it. You have to do excellent in these 4 questions. If you do poor in this, it doesn't affect that much, although it will give you some scores. Similarly, for reading, there are 5 types of questions, and 3 types of questions give you 80 to 90% scores. So these things have to be learned, that which questions give me the maximum scores. So this is surprising, you know, 5টা reading question এ 3টাই দিয়ে দিচ্ছে 80 to 90%. So বাকি 2টা only 10%. আবার ওই 3টার মধ্যে, out of those 3, if I minus 1, there are 2 questions in reading, 2 types that give you 80% scores. Fill in the blanks types. They are fill in the blanks types. It's a good news, because another feature is that that tough questions carry less marks. So it's an interesting news. In PTE, tough questions carry less marks. It gives you already a head start or an advantage to decide which questions to look for, and that's important to know, because some people, if you don't know these technicalities, you might end up wasting your time for the questions that don't give you that much marks. Some people, for example, in reading, the MCQ questions, there are some MCQ multiple choice questions, they are really tough, but they hardly give 10 to 15% scores in the whole reading.
Okay.
So if somebody doesn't know about it, so there is a risk of preparing, going for self preparation, which is why আমাদেরকে যখন কেউ কন্টাক্ট করে, অনেকে ভাবে হয়তো আমরা তাকে জয়েন করার জন্য করি। আসলে the fact is that if you are preparing yourself, on your own for PTE, that means you might lack those knowledge and technicalities, and that might not come as a good outcome. If you're wasting your time on MCQ, you're wasting your time only for 10 to 15% scores. So the same thing can be said about listening. There are 8 types of questions, and surprisingly, 4 types. There are specific 4 types out of these 8. They give 80 to 90% scores.
Okay.
So half of them carry 80 to 90% score, and the half of them, the rest half, carry only 10 to 15 to 20% maximum score.
Okay.
Right? So you will know these things once we finish each module. These are the basic stuff, and it's definitely a computer-based test, so marking is done by the computer. And noise situation is there. What is that? It's a small room in Dhaka. If we consider the test center in Dhaka, where I was the first PT trainer in Bangladesh. So it's a small room of 4. So 4 people are sitting. There is no soundproof booth. So you are just sitting in an open place and talking at the same time. So definitely there is a noise situation, but this is intentional because Pearson wants you to be able to complete the test in a noise situation, just like real life. But sometimes what happens, 1 or 2 candidates might start literally shouting their lungs out. That causes a lot of trouble, but it also is not a problem as long as you are mentally prepared that I'm going to face a lot of noise around me. So we prepare that, and we prepare the candidates with those things, and with the noise situation and stuff. So when you're fully prepared, you go for it. But one important thing, those who are watching, I might upload this video to YouTube as well, that shouting like a lunatic or a madman is not a good idea. কিছু মানুষ মানে সো কল ট্রেনারও আমি বলতে পারি, তারা এই কুবুদ্ধিটা দেয় কিছু ক্যান্ডিডেটকে, or some candidates get this idea on their own, maybe from YouTube or something, that they have to shout like hell, otherwise they are not getting scores in speaking. That's a bullshit, because I scored 90 without shouting. I'm the living evidence, and under me there have been many candidates who got scored 90, and they are living evidence. Right. There used to be a problem 1 or 2 years back. Like some people had, like the female candidates had lower voice. There used to be some problem. Maybe there was a technical issue with the equipment. They have changed the equipment. The scoring is far better now, more sophisticated. So nobody has to shout like hell. I mean, it causes trouble for the other candidates. Even it happened 2 days back. One of my candidates sat for the test, and the guy sitting next to her just he was shouting like an insane goat, and she got totally upset. And another problem is that normally the headphone it's a noise free, it comes with a noise free technology, but that day my learner, she told me that when she was testing her recording, she was talking and the guy sitting next to her was shouting like, as I said, a lunatic. So surprisingly, shockingly, when she was playing her voice, his voice was also being played.
The double voice is recorded, maybe.
Just imagine যে কত জোরে সে বললে noise free টেকনোলজিটাকেও তো আমি বলেছি এরকম যদি হয়, I'm really worried. এখনো স্কোর পাইনি, I don't know, but she should have easily got 50-60. I don't know, এখনো পাইনি, she didn't let me know, but I have to think about it. I mean, everybody has to be conscious about it, because you are also ruining another person's life by doing that. Acha. So these are the basic stuff. Let me know if you have any questions. It's a computer-based test, scored by computer. The scores are interchanged. One module supports the other. So that means if you're doing bad in 1 or 2 modules, it negatively affects. But if you're doing too good in 2 modules, especially in reading and listening, you are getting some support for writing as well. Speaking also matters, because speaking doesn't get any score from anything. Suppose if you do pretty good in speaking and listening, then you are getting support for writing and as well as for reading.
Okay.
So eভাবে মাথায় রাখতে হবে. And special features are, there are lots of partial scores. You can prioritize specific questions. Because tough questions carry less marks, quite less marks, and it is marked by a computer and noise situation. Another thing is that we can also take help of some interesting. Sorry?
So is there any negative mark?
Negative marking is given in reading and listening for MCQs, a multiple choice, multiple answer. But the negative marking doesn't affect other questions. Kirokom, if you choose 2 options, one is correct, one is incorrect, -1, +1, 0. But if both of them are incorrect, you get 0 again. You are not getting -2. So it's not affecting other question scores, right? Let me stop this recording.